Malawi Children's Village. Supporting the Rotary Foundation as a member of the Paul Harris Society, a major donor and a member of the Bequest Society. Leading a vocational training team to Malawi in 2016 as part of a Rotary Foundation Global Grant project to encourage students, especially girls, to stay in school and complete their primary and secondary education. Elizabeth's activities have not gone unnoticed. Among her accolades are a recipient of the Rotary Foundation's Citation for Meritorious Service, recognition at the White House as a Rotary Women of Action honoree, and in 2011 and 2012 received the US President's Volunteer Service Award. Being instrumental in 2015 also in forming the District 6040 Waldo Brookside Rotary Club that was chartered with 50 members. Elizabeth's personal tagline is, "The power of we is within us all." And that is the topic of our presentation today. Fellows and guests, let us welcome our speaker, Past District Elizabeth Usovics, with a round of applause, after which she will do the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very beautiful and gracious introduction, Andrew. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I'm delighted to be here today with the leaders and the club members of both of your clubs in this joint meeting, and to be here with all of the other Rotarians from around the world who have chosen to join us. So I especially appreciate the warm welcome and also the kind invitation that was extended by the Rotary Club of Thane Royals from Club Secretary Rotarian Umesh Patel. As I prepare for my role in Rotary as a member of the International Board of Directors, I've had the opportunity to meet and work a bit with our 2021-2022 Rotary International President from India, Shekhar Mehta, and I'll be very honored to serve on his board of directors during my first term as Rotary International Director. But before I begin, let me also express my hopes for each of you and for your families and for the extended family of Rotary, that you are all staying well and are safe during these times of global public health challenges. I'm thankful for your time and attention today that you are devoting to this meeting, but more importantly, for the time and attention that you devote to the humanitarian service projects that your clubs and districts are performing. So Secretary Umesh requested that I speak to you today on the topic of the power of we is within us all. And as he mentioned, that is my personal tagline or my personal mantra. Before I begin, though, I would like to recognize that our discussion this evening must acknowledge some cultural considerations. We are, as this meeting represents, a global organization, and my perspectives are based on my work in one cultural context. And there may be elements of my talk which will need to be adjusted to regional culture, and I appreciate your understanding of that. So with that, let's begin. And I think it's no secret to any of us that now more than ever, the power of we is very much needed in our communities, in our world, and in our clubs. And as Andrew mentioned in the introduction, I served as governor of my district in 2008-2009. And in 2008 was an important year for me because I decided to leave my corporate work and return to where I began my career in management consulting. And I decided to start my own management consulting practice at the same time that I was preparing to become governor. And it was in March of 2008, and I was preparing for President-elect's training. It was very late one night after a very long day of working on my business and in my business, and then also working in and with Rotary. And I just remember feeling so exhausted and thinking to myself, how am I going to do this? I honestly do not recommend starting your business in the same year that you're preparing to be district governor, but I am proof that it can be done. So I asked that question, exhausted, and then I just sat back and kind of thought about it a bit and listened. And some of us may call it inspiration. Some of us may call it prayer. Some of us call it perhaps that small and still voice within us. But here's what I heard after asking that question: how am I going to do this? And what I heard was, well, you're asking the wrong question. The question is not, how do I do this? You're going to do it with others. The question is, how do we do this? And that night was really the beginning of my embracing the power of we is within us all. And it became very clear to me that that was something that that was a thought, that was action that I was going to live by. And here we are 12 years later, and there have been many changes in all of our lives over that time. But what a difference, especially the past 7 months, have made in all our lives. Now we've had more changes than we ever imagined. And I think it's very easy for us to feel a bit powerless in the face of these changes. And especially so because these are changes we did not choose to make. These are changes that we had to make. So in this climate of social distancing, how do we continue the work of service above self? How do we lead ourselves and our clubs to make changes that we choose to make in this environment of change that we didn't choose? And as we all feel our way through these global challenges, I think we're all very aware that none of us is an expert. No one has been through this before, and everyone's experience in these challenges is very unique. So now our challenge is finding that power of we within us all as a way to meet those challenges. And today I'd like to share with you 3 ways that we can find and lead from the power of we. And I'm going to share my screen with you now as we move forward. And I think one of the first ways that we can begin to embrace the power of we starts with our mindset. It starts with thinking and then speaking in terms of we. And if you ask most Rotarians what the most important word or most powerful word in a leader's vocabulary, most Rotarians are very polite. And when I ask that question, what I frequently hear is, it's please or thank you, or it's yes. How many of us have said yes to something before we really knew the details of what we were being asked to do in Rotary? Those are all very wonderful words. They're significant words for a leader, but they're not the most powerful word. And I believe that the most powerful word in a leader's vocabulary is we. And let's put that into the context of what we do in our humanitarian service. There are worldwide over 140 million volunteers, people, normal, ordinary people like us who are volunteering their time. 1.2 million of those people in about 35,000 clubs are Rotarians. So if we are leading and we are speaking in terms of I and you, that may not be the best way for us to share success, especially in a challenging time. If you're sharing a challenge or sharing a success, we is the mindset that works. We says no one is in this alone. We says we have support. We says we are collaborating and helping ourselves and others in the process of dealing with challenges. And I will say that as we engage others, leaders also need support. That question I asked 12 years ago, that was a me question. And when I listened, the answer I got was a we answer. And it taught me tremendously about feeling the support of the people I was working with, engaging them and inviting them into leading through we. And they did through that governor year that I experienced. I had wonderful leaders who were there to support me and to support our district through that year. So we do engage others, but one of the greatest gifts I think that we can give to our clubs and to those that we interact with is to move from a me mindset to a we mindset. And so I would like to give you or suggest to you a 30-day challenge. When you're talking to your club, when you are dealing with coworkers or colleagues, start paying attention to how many times you say I or you to them, and how many times you express your thoughts in terms of we. And I think when you begin to do this, you will find that it takes a little bit of time to step back and change your vocabulary to we. That once you start to do that, you will find it very challenging to go back to expressing your thoughts in terms of I or you, especially in a club context where we are all working together towards humanitarian service. But the 30-day I to we challenge can totally change your outlook on what you do and how you do it. And it's no coincidence that the 10 messages around the Rotary People of Action campaign all begin with together we. It's a very powerful way to express what it is we do in Rotary. Together we end polio. Together we inspire. Together we save lives. Together we fight hunger. These are extraordinarily powerful ways to frame what we do and how we do it. So a second way to bring people together through the power of we is by creating a common aim. So a common aim is one of the most powerful ways that we have to create that sense of we in our clubs, and between clubs like the clubs represented here, and to stay focused on what is most important and most beneficial to all in these times of change. So why is that common aim so important? Well, it creates in everyone a willingness to do what needs to be done. And it also places the power of we right here and right now in this moment that we are living. It's not the power of we for tomorrow or next week or next month. It's right here and right now. So let's take a look at an example of the power of we that was expressed through a powerful common aim. And I hope at this point you will understand that I take this example from my own cultural experience, and that there are many significant examples of powerful common aims that have shaped the cultural experiences in your own countries. And for some of us, this example is living history if we were on this earth in the 1960s. And for those of us who were born after that time, it is truly history. So I leave it to you to decide if this is history or living history for you. But in 1961 in the United States, something very significant happened. President John F. Kennedy addressed Congress and rallied NASA, the Space Administration, around a common aim that was simple. It was only 12 words. And that common aim was land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. That was a huge and daunting expectation that was laid out by the president at that time. And it took 8 years, but on July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11, the mission Apollo 11 did land on the moon, and Neil Armstrong walked on the moon almost 238 million miles from Earth. And if we look at the spacesuits and even the rockets from that time and the computers from that time, it looks like the people at NASA did that, accomplish that using vacuum tubes and duct tape, electrical tape. It's phenomenal in terms of thinking about that accomplishment. We have great examples of common aims in Rotary as well. And we do it much more concisely than the presidents and Congress and NASA did in 1961, because our Rotary common aims are only 3 words, generally. They are words like and phrases like service above self. Right? You can go into any club anywhere in the world, and no matter how many points of view and how many cultural differences we have, and even how many maybe personal opinions we have, when you say these common aims, everyone in that room, everyone in that club focuses on the same thing and is moving together in the same direction. So it is service above self. End polio now. I have never seen those 3 words uttered in a meeting where everyone didn't completely focus and get in line. Rotary opens opportunities. Another example of a wonderful common aim. And all the together we messages that I mentioned earlier, those are wonderful common aims. But here's an interesting thing about common aims. After a common aim is created, it must continually be reinforced and reestablished. It's not, as we say in Kansas City, it is not a one and done proposition. You don't have to do it just once and then it's done. It has to be done repeatedly. And it's more like the instructions on our shampoo bottles, which also happen to be 3 words by coincidence. Most shampoo bottles say on the back, lather, rinse, and repeat. And that is what we have to do with the common aim. When it's completed, when the common aim is completed, though, we need to put and create another common aim, because if we don't, we lose the power of we. And I'd like to go back to that example of Apollo 11 now and talk about what happened at NASA after that extraordinary feat of Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. And what happened at NASA is that another common aim was not put in its place. There was no single unifying, collectively created common aim that NASA worked toward. Yes, the space program had sent lots of other missions, but none of them ever achieved the accomplishment of that singular common aim. Nothing was ever done on the same level. And in fact, almost 50 years later, in 2011, Neil Armstrong addressed Congress. And from those great beginnings, what he called NASA at that congressional meeting was an embarrassment. So it's so easy to go from great achievement to embarrassment or lack of productivity, lack of effectiveness, lack of impact without a common aim. So I ask us all, what common aims do we have for our clubs? It may be a very simple common aim that everyone shares and focuses on, staying connected every week, reaching out to members who live alone or are experiencing difficulty or who do not have internet connectivity. Or maybe it's the common aim of living service above self, even though we are meeting virtually, or in some cases, half virtually, half hybrid, half in person. Or maybe it's talking about having a passion project in our clubs or a compassion project and staying focused on that. Whatever it is, you need to create, reset, and reestablish again and again that common aim. Because if we don't continually focus on that common aim, people will do what they naturally do. They will set their own common aims. We have an expression in the United States called herding cats, which is an impossibility. And I've often heard that referred to in Rotary as well. But when people do not have a common aim, they will seek out their own aim, and everyone goes in their own directions, and we lose that opportunity that the power of we represents. So people will remember what we have done as Rotarians and what we have not done as Rotarians through these challenging times. And as I said earlier, it's easy for us to look at what no longer is possible or to focus on change that we did not want. And there are another three word set that can help us to work through that in times of change. And they are, what if we, as the beginning of a question, so that what if we question can be very powerful in these times. And how many of our clubs are meeting online? How many of our clubs, like mine, will need to look for a new place to meet when we fully return to meeting in person? The restaurant where my club has met for several years has unfortunately closed in this COVID environment, and it will not reopen. So we will have to look at that. How many of us have had to cancel a club fundraiser or maybe modify a club service project because it was an in-person event that assumed that public gatherings would be possible? And then I think the really important question is, how many of us have discussed these issues in our clubs by starting with this question, what if we, and then finishing that with something that is possible to do, that is a change that we choose to make. This year's presidential theme is Rotary Opens Opportunities, and each of us has that opportunity to utilize the power of we, if we ask, what if we? So we, a common aim, what if we? These are very simple tools, but they are very effective ways for us to bring together the power of we that is within each one of us. I'd like to leave you with some final thoughts today. And that is, if you are a younger member of your club, to remind you that you are in the process of creating the destiny for your club and your community. And if you are an older member of your club, you are in the process of creating a legacy for your club and your community. And our collective ability to create a destiny and leave a legacy begins with our ability to lead with the power of we that is within us all, because that will lead us to positive change. I would like to thank you again for this invitation today, to thank you for your time and attention. I wish you good health and also opportunities to find the power of we that is within us all in your clubs and in your districts. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was a wonderful topic and very well said. I would now like to ask Rotarian Vijay to please moderate the question and answer session. Vijay, over to you.
Thank you, President Tej. Friends, if anybody has any questions, the floor is open. Kindly raise your hands. So we would unmute you. Yeah, DG Selvin, please.
And that was a very inspiring talk. I enjoyed it a lot. The word we, of course, in some languages can be, it's to do with inclusivity. It can be you and me. It can also be me and others. Do you emphasize the difference between the two we's in your statement about the word we?
Yes, I do. And that's an excellent point. An excellent point, because in many contexts, and I think we have all seen this, where we has been used to exclude rather than to include. And it's done unintentionally many times. But when you are using we, it's the people who are present with you at that time who have to be part of that we. If the we only includes some of the people who are with you, or it includes people who are not there, then it feels very exclusionary. So it's an excellent point. And yes, we cannot be a plural I. It has to be a collective of everyone who is present. I hope that addresses the point you made, which is a very important nuance of the power of we.
Thank you.
President Gabriel from Rotary Club Uze Central, please.
Yes, thank you very much, my Rotarian president, and tonight, it's my pleasure to once more have to join this meeting where director and CCP. Mine is not really a question actually, but a comment. The power of we have applied in this central has kept us bonded together as a club. And that makes it very easy for us to be able to assume the maker status of having over 100 members. Now, example is the application of the words like the International Award-winning club, the club that excites us every Monday. Those are the kind of words that we use, and all of us are always happy and are always looking forward to meeting every Monday. And I believe that I have learned more, particularly from the application of we based on the presentation made by Director Elizabeth. It is my pleasure once more to see you here and to express appreciation for your presentation at this meeting. Thank you very much and have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to ask a question? Kindly raise your hand so we can unmute you. Tony, you wish to ask something? Yeah, Tony, please unmute and speak. VDG Tony, kindly unmute. Yeah, please.
Hello. I just wanted to say can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible,
Yes.
please.
I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed your speech. And yes, I understand where Selwyn was coming from, that sometimes we is something that we're told not to use because of the fact that can sometimes be passing the buck a bit, saying we did this, we did that. But from the concept that you are talking about, Rotary working together as a we is definitely going to be the way forward. These times are so hard that for us to do as much good in the world as we want to do, we're going to have to work together as a we of clubs like this meeting globally, helping each other to actually help communities everywhere. So thank you very much for leading with this and your fabulous presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments and for your insights.
I was curious for the rest of you guys who are literally around the world. Do you find this 2020 to be as divisive as an us-them in your cultures right now? We're in an election cycle, so that already makes things a little crazier. But I'm curious, for COVID or other things going on for you around the world, do you have a lot of us versus them going on right now, or have your respective nations come together during this time?
You don't read the news then, by the sound of it.
Is that open to all to answer?
Yes, please.
Yes, I am Rotarian came from Rotary Club of Kisugu, Victoria View in District 911, Uganda. During this COVID time, middle of March this year, when it was announced by the president of our country here, everybody was scared. At that time, there was no COVID victim in Uganda, but the whole country was locked down. Went for the first 3 weeks and up to a month, the country was still locked down. Everybody was scared, no movement anywhere. But shortly, the various sectors started getting opened up. Then along the line, the whole thing changed. You will begin to see people no longer scared, and people are just doing their thing their own way. Suddenly, this is an election year here. Politics came in, and what we started seeing is you and us, them and we started emerging. But at first, the first 1 month, it was everybody together. The very first time we have noticed, everybody came together against COVID. But shortly after that, it turned out to you and us. Politics came in, division came in, and it has remained up to now. In the midst of all these, it was only Rotary that remained we. It gave us opportunity to have fellowship globally, like we are having right now. If it's not for COVID, I don't think I'll be able to be in this fellowship. So it's an advantage, it's a plus for Rotary. But in the community, right now, it is them and us divided in various sectors. And that is a very big tragedy. That's the experience here in Kampala, in Uganda.
Thank you, Nakim. I think we'll take up this during the fellowship. Any further questions to our Director-elect Elizabeth, please? I think there are no further questions. Hand you over back to President Tej, please, for the further questions.
Thank you, Vijay. We would now like to present Rotarian Elizabeth with a certificate of appreciation by our club, Rotary Club of Thane. Vijay, if you can please show it on your screen.
एक मिनट Yes, President Tej, it is on.
So, this is a certificate of appreciation from our Thane Club, Rotary Club of Thane Royals, presented to PGD Elizabeth Usovics. And thank you very much again for the wonderful and inspiring words on the topic. We'll have this mailed to you.
Thank you very much, President. I'm very honored to be here, and it's very kind of you to present me with that certificate. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
We are very honored to you as well. I would now like to request Rotarian Vice President Sandeep Dhotre to please give the vote of thanks. Sandeep, over to you.
Thank you, Tej. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. I thank you, RIDE Elizabeth Usovics, for giving us ways to embrace the power of be by giving by taking a 30-day challenge initially from I to how to change from I to we, and thereafter creating certain common aims. We are really thankful for enlightening us on this subject, how to work as a group instead of working alone. So it was really nice to hear you in this situation. That will help under the present, help us to come out of the present pandemic situation. Uh, I would like to thank the other clubs who joined, the presidents of other clubs, and also the uh, the district dignitaries from all the international clubs. Thank you very much. Tej, you can take over.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, Sandeep. Now, secretary announcement by Secretary Umesh. And first over to Umesh. Umesh, please announce the secretary announcement for the Rotary Club of Thane Royaleswith.
Thank you, President Tej. First of all, ma'am, thank you very much for accepting the invite and enlightening us today on the subject. Hello.
Yes, Umesh, go ahead.
Hello.
Umesh, please continue.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Umesh, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Umesh, you are audible. Please continue.
I hope I am audible.
Yes, yes, please continue.
Yeah. So the peak attendance today was 77, including friends, today's peak attendance was 77, including members on YouTube as well as Zoom. Huge number, and we are happy to announce that. And we had members from 36
Umesh,
clubs
your
and
voice is
15
gone.
countries. So congrats to all. Apart from that, friends, there are two announcements. One, our club is hosting a meeting as a co-host on the 18th of October. Hello.
I think his voice is gone. The maximum attendance peak attendance was
Hello.
77, including YouTube, because we have a live on streaming on YouTube also, with members coming in from 36 clubs and over 15 countries. And we also have arranged a game meeting of Tambola on the 28th of October, which will be for all the members. So all are requested to join in. Thank you, President Tej. This is the announcement on behalf of Umesh. I think he has a problem.
Thank you. Secretary announcement by Rotary Club of Edgware and Stanmore by Secretary Suresh.
Tej, we cannot hear you. Please continue.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you again, President Tej. Okay, the secretarial report from Edgware and Stanmore Rotary Club is that we had 11 members that attended today. And we also had 3 overseas that attended. And before I end my secretarial report, I just have a small quote that I would like to say to everyone, is that each friend represents a world in us, a world possibly not born until they arrive. And it is only by this meeting that a new world is born. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Suresh. It was very well said.
Thanks.
I think we should now attend the meeting today. Is there anything else right now?
No, we can continue with fellowship. All members are requested